You still struggle. Not because you're weak, not because you're broken, not because you're cursed, but because you've yet to meet the war within you. You keep searching for answers in books, in others, in fleeting bursts of motivation, but the battlefield was never out there. It was never in your circumstances. It's always been you, the habits you refuse to break, the lies you whisper to yourself in silence, the comfort you cling to like a lifeline, even though it's dragging you under. You still struggle because you've allowed your mind to be a slave, to fear, to hesitation, to self-pity. You want strength, but you shy away from pain. You want peace, but you feed chaos. You want progress, but you keep hitting snooze on your destiny. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But you haven't realized it yet. Not truly. You've heard the words, but you haven't burned them into your bones. You haven't made them your mantra when life turns hostile. You haven't stared into the storm and said, "This ends with me." And that is why you still struggle. You want transformation without sacrifice, growth without discomfort, mastery without repetition. But the laws of this world don't bend for wishful thinking. The mountain doesn't move just because you dream it to. It only moves when you do. You still struggle because you haven't committed fully. You're half in, half out, one foot in belief, one foot in doubt. And that's no way to fight. That's how you get crushed. That's how your potential rots, one unclaimed opportunity at a time. The truth is, you haven't suffered enough. Not the kind of suffering that burns the old version of you to ash. Not the kind that forges steel in place of excuses. You've been bruised, sure, but not broken open. Not transformed. Struggle isn't the enemy, it's the signal, it's the invitation. But you've been treating it like a curse, like a punishment, when it's the very forge that could make you unstoppable. You don't need easier circumstances, you need a stronger mind. You need the kind of resolve that doesn't break when life does. The kind of discipline that doesn't wait for motivation to arrive. You still struggle because your discipline is negotiable. Your word to yourself is fragile. You say, "I'll change," and then you don't. You say, "This time is different," and then it isn't. You say, "I'm ready," but you're still dragging the weight of yesterday into every sunrise. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you went to war for your future? Not dreamed about it, not talked about it, not fantasized about the life you should be living. I'm talking about bleeding for it, suffering for it. Standing up at 5 a.m. while the rest of the world sleeps, staring at your demons and saying, "Not today." Until that's your standard, struggle will be your shadow. You think you're waiting for the right moment, the perfect opportunity, but what you're really doing is hiding. Behind fear, behind doubt, behind stories you've outgrown but still recite like gospel. I'm not ready. What if I fail? What will they think? But Marcus Aurelius reminds us, it is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live. And many of you haven't even begun. You wake up every day with a gift, a mind that can choose, a will that can command. And instead of using it, you retreat into numbness. You scroll, you procrastinate, you blame, you wait. And life doesn't wait. The universe rewards the bold, not the hesitant, not the passive. And the reason you still struggle is because you have not yet decided to go all in. You're dabbling in greatness, tasting it, watching it from a distance, but never sitting at the table and demanding your seat, because deep down, you're afraid. Afraid of what you'll have to give up, afraid of who you'll become, afraid that once you start, you'll have no excuse left not to rise. But I'll tell you something, that fear is sacred. That fear is the compass. The more it terrifies you, the more it's pointing directly at your purpose. You want to know why you still struggle? Because you keep negotiating with your weakness. You keep showing mercy to the voice in your head that wants to keep you small. And until you learn to silence it, not with words, but with action, you will stay stuck in this loop. Wake up, regret, repeat. But it doesn't have to be that way. There is a version of you buried under years of compromise, years of quitting too soon, years of accepting less than you were built for. And that version, that true self, it's not dead. It's dormant, waiting, watching, and wondering when you'll finally have the guts to resurrect it. And when you do, the struggle won't disappear, but it will elevate you. It will sculpt you. It will teach you to move through pain like a warrior instead of folding like a victim. Struggle doesn't mean stop. Struggle means continue. Struggle means you are being called to a higher standard. And when you stop running from it, when you embrace it like a soldier embraces the battlefield, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary, then, and only then, will you understand why it was there in the first place. You wake up, and the weight is still there. The tension behind your eyes, the heaviness in your chest, the voice that says, why even try? But here's what no one told you. That weight you carry, it's not holding you down. It's what you're meant to lift. That pressure, that burden, that inner resistance. It's the proving ground. The gym where warriors are born. And every rep you take against it, every disciplined action, every hard choice, every time you refuse to quit, it carves a new layer of strength into your soul. The reason you still struggle is because you're waiting for the struggle to end before you begin. But the paradox is this. The moment you begin, despite the struggle, is the moment the chains start to break. You're not meant to be comfortable. You're not meant to coast. You were born to rise through adversity, to grow from friction, to earn your clarity through chaos. Stop asking for peace without paying the price. Stop waiting for courage to arrive like a package at your doorstep. It's forged in motion, in the arena, while you're scared and sweating and doing the damn work anyway. You think you need more motivation. No, you need more conviction, a reason that cuts through doubt like fire through ice. You need to get honest, brutally honest, about what you've allowed, about what you've accepted, about the lies you've made your truth, because until you confront that reality, you will remain the architect of your own suffering. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask the world to be easy. He commanded himself to be strong. And that's your job now, not to bend reality to your comfort, but to harden yourself to meet reality on its terms. There is a moment in every life when you stop running, when you draw a line and say, this is where I make my stand. And you're either at that moment or it's coming. But know this. If you keep hiding from the war comes to you in the form of regret, in the form of mediocrity, in the form of a life half-lived. Struggle is a test, and most people fail it, not because they're incapable, but because they expect it to feel good. It won't. It's supposed to feel like burning, like breaking, like unraveling everything you thought you were so you can become what you must be. You've been taught to avoid that pain, to soften it, to numb it. But the greatest men in history, they went through hell and stayed awake. Lincoln, alone in the dark with the weight of a divided nation. Edison, burning through failure after failure before inventing light. Carnegie, rising from dirt floors to redefine wealth itself. What did they have that you don't? Not more luck, not more time, but more fire, a refusal to back down, an obsession with growth so strong that comfort became irrelevant. You still struggle because you haven't made that shift yet, from comfort seeker to war commander, but it's in you. It's always been in you. That version of you who doesn't flinch under pressure, who doesn't fold when it hurts, who doesn't chase validation but earns respect through relentless consistency. That version isn't a fantasy, it's your inheritance, but only if you're willing to suffer for it, because you will suffer. You'll lose sleep. You'll lose friends. You'll be misunderstood, criticized, mocked, doubted, and still you'll rise. Because once you see the truth, once you see that every struggle is your invitation to dominate your own nature, you can never unsee it. The mountain doesn't shrink for anyone, but you can grow. You can outwork it, outlast it, outfight it. You can break yourself down and build a new foundation, one built on discipline, not desire, purpose, not pleasure, principles, not popularity. Every struggle is a mirror, and what you see in it is a choice. You can see defeat, or you can see your next transformation. You can see failure, or you can see the lesson. You can see pain, or you can see preparation. But either way, you will see yourself. And what you do in that moment, that's the story you write. That's the legacy you build. You weren't born to repeat the past. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to break patterns, to conquer limitations, to face the same pain that broke others and become stronger because of it. So no, your struggle isn't special, but what you do with it, that can be, because there will come a day when the excuses no longer work, when blaming others feels hollow, when the pain of staying the same finally eclipses the fear of change. And on that day, when you finally look in the mirror and say, "No more," you'll realize the struggle was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to awaken you. And when that awakening comes, when your eyes finally open and you see the prison you've built out of your own habits, distractions, and fears, you will have two choices: rebuild or retreat. Most will retreat. They'll go back to the familiar chains, the predictable days, the soul-numbing routine. They'll call it realism. They'll call it balance. They'll call it just how life is. But deep down, they know it's surrender. You are not here to surrender. You're not here to merely exist, to fill space, to fade into the noise of the average and the uninspired. You are here to rise, to claim your life like a soldier charges a hill, not because it's safe, but because it's necessary. So why do you still struggle? Because you keep chasing relief instead of resolve. You treat your struggle like a curse when it's your calling. You numb your discomfort instead of using it as fuel. You take breaks when you should be breaking limits. You seek comfort when you should be seeking challenge. And then you wonder why nothing changes. But hear this: there is no growth without grit, no expansion without exertion, no glory without grind. The gods of greatness demand sacrifice, not once, not occasionally, but daily. Discipline is not a mood, it's a muscle. And most of you, you've let it atrophy. You want to be exceptional, but you act like everyone else. You want rare results with common habits. You want power without pressure, but power only respects those who suffer for it, those who are willing to be forged in the fire while others run for cover. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and still woke up early to write about how to live. He knew the throne didn't exempt him from the war of the mind. In fact, it demanded he fight it even harder. You don't need a crown to be a king. You need control over your impulses, over your time, over your thoughts, and most of all, over the story you tell yourself every time you face resistance, because that's the real battleground, not the world. You, that story you keep replaying, the one where you're not good enough, not ready, not equipped, it's fiction. And the longer you tell it, the deeper your struggle becomes. Not because life is cruel, but because you're the one keeping yourself on the leash. You don't need more time. You don't need more talent. You need a new standard. Raise it. From I'll try to I will. From maybe later to right now. From I hope to I execute. Hope is cheap. Action is priceless. You still struggle because you keep waiting to feel ready. You keep waiting for motivation to strike like lightning. But motivation is a child. It's emotional, fleeting, and unreliable. Discipline is a general. It gives orders even when the heart is weak and the body is tired. The life you want isn't buried in some future moment of inspiration. It's in your next decision. That's it. That's the lever. That's the spark. The power to transform everything starts with the choice you make right now. Do you rise or do you repeat? Do you build or do you blame? Do you go through the motions or do you go to war for the person you're meant to become? Every day is an altar, and your actions are the offering. What are you sacrificing today? Time, comfort, the illusion of safety? Or are you sacrificing your future for temporary pleasure? Your purpose for another hit of distraction? Your greatness for a feeling that will evaporate in minutes? Because struggle is not about what you're going through. It's about what you're giving up. And until what you want is worth more than what you fear, the struggle will own you. So flip the equation. Let the pain sharpen you. Let the fear direct you. Let the discomfort mold you. Let the struggle serve you. You don't need to eliminate the fire. You need to learn to walk through it without flinching. Because the man who can suffer well, who can endure and stay focused, stay grounded, stay hungry, that man becomes a legend in his own life. He becomes unstoppable. And you're capable of that. But only when you stop treating your potential like a hobby. Only when you stop giving average the gift of your time. Only when you stop worshiping at the altar of someday. You still struggle. Because you haven't yet decided that you've had enough. But when you do, when the decision is final, when the old self dies, when the excuses evaporate like mist in the morning sun, everything changes. You stop being at the mercy of life. You become the force that bends it. That force, the one that bends life. It doesn't come from talent, from luck, or from someone handing you a golden opportunity. It comes from inside. From a soul that has been through the fire and chosen not to run, not to complain, not to crumble, but to rise anyway. It's the force of someone who has wrestled with their demons, not once, but every day. Someone who knows the darkness intimately, yet still chooses to walk in the light. Someone who doesn't pretend the pain isn't real, but refuses to let it write the ending. You think you're waiting for strength to show up? No! Strength is built the moment you act when you don't feel strong. Strength is doing what must be done when nothing in you feels ready. Strength is getting up again with blood in your mouth and purpose in your eyes. You think the people you admire didn't suffer? That the leaders, the warriors, the legends lived in ease? They bled. They broke. They walked through betrayal, loss, humiliation, failure, and they kept going. That's why they became what they became. Look at them. Lincoln, crippled by depression but leading a nation through civil war. Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years and still forgiving his captors. Marcus Aurelius, facing plague, betrayal, death, and still writing words that echo for millennia. They didn't escape struggle. They owned it. And so must you. Because the truth is, you were never meant to be soft. You weren't built for endless comfort. You were built for resistance, for the battle, for the climb. It's in your blood. But the world has made you forget that. It told you to avoid risk, to seek pleasure, to follow the crowd, to fit in. But you don't want to fit in. You want to stand out. And the price of standing out is paid in full with every difficult decision, every hour you put in while no one's watching, every rejection you swallow without losing your fire, every time you show up anyway, even when your mind screams at you to quit. You still struggle because you've believed the lie that it's supposed to be easier by now. But what if the struggle is the path? What if the resistance is not in the way, but the way? What if everything you need is hidden behind the very obstacle you keep avoiding? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Understand this, and you'll unlock the secret that most men never find. You don't rise by escaping your pain. You rise by going through it, by meeting it with clarity, by matching it with purpose, by enduring it without complaint and transforming it into fuel. Because when pain and purpose collide, something divine is born. That is when a man discovers who he truly is. Not in his victories, but in his valleys. Not when things go right, but when they fall apart. Not when he is admired, but when he is alone, face to face with his soul, stripped of all masks, all noise, all illusion. And if you haven't faced that moment yet, you will. It will come. And when it does, you will either remember these words or you'll forget them and collapse into the arms of mediocrity. But if you do remember, if you remember that the obstacle is the way, that the struggle is the signal, that your pain is your teacher, then that moment won't break you. It will baptize you into a new version of yourself, stronger, sharper, quieter, fiercer, humble but unshakable, grounded in purpose, driven not by ego or applause, but by something far deeper, by the fire of becoming who you were always meant to be. That's what this is about. Not wealth, not fame, not validation, but transformation. You still struggle because you've been living as a fraction of who you are. You've tiptoed around your power. You've treated your calling like a side project. You've dulled your edge to blend in, to be liked, to feel safe. But safe never built an empire. Safe never forged a legacy. Safe never set a soul on fire. You were not born to survive this life. You were born to command it, to squeeze meaning from every drop of difficulty, to rise, not occasionally, but daily. And every day you hesitate, every day you delay, every day you choose what's easy over what's right, that's a day of your destiny sacrificed. No more. So let this be the end of hesitation, the end of self-betrayal, the end of waiting for life to hand you the permission slip you were always meant to write for yourself. You are not here to be another silent casualty of unrealized potential. You are not here to keep playing the same loop of almost, someday, and maybe next time. You are here to burn the old script, to walk away from everything that once kept you small, the excuses, the doubt, the self-pity, the fragile narratives you've told yourself about why you can't change, why you're not ready, why you're not that type of person. You were never meant to blend into this world. You were meant to remake it. But first, you must remake yourself. And that begins when you take full ownership of your struggle, when you stop seeing it as punishment and start seeing it as potential, when you stop asking, why is this happening to me, and start declaring, this is happening for me. Because it is. The pain, the delays, the heartbreak, the resistance. They're not detours, they're refinement. They are the heat that melts away the weakness, the friction that grinds down your ego, the blows that hammer your spirit into iron. And once you understand that, once you embrace it fully, you become untouchable. You stop seeking permission. You stop begging for signs. You stop chasing surface-level validation and begin operating from a depth most men never access. And suddenly, the struggle isn't a burden anymore. It's a compass, a signpost that says, this is where you grow, this is where you level up, this is where you break free. And if you don't feel that right now, if the flame inside you is still dim, flickering in the wind of distraction, fear, and self-doubt, then listen to this and let it burn. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not stuck. You are standing at the edge of your life's turning point. And everything you've been through, all the setbacks, all the losses, all the dark nights of the soul was not for nothing. It was preparation. It was training. It was awakening. And now it's time to choose. Not casually, not quietly, but with fire. Will you stay in the pattern that's kept you struggling? Or will you rise into the discomfort that leads to greatness? Will you shrink every time life challenges you? Or will you stretch yourself wide enough to hold the future that's already been whispering your name? This is not a motivational speech. This is a summons to get up, to cut the rope, to kill the old identity, to become the force you've been waiting for. Because no one's coming. There is no cavalry. There is no magic moment. There is no savior on the horizon. There is only you and this choice to rise or remain. To struggle or to transform, to fade into the background, or to finally step into the battlefield of life and say, this ends with me. This begins with me. Now watch what I become. Because once that decision is made, truly made, your struggle no longer owns you. You own it. And through it, you will become something this world has not yet seen.